All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the good stuff. We are live here on Player Profiler doing 10 players we would not want to draft unless something big happens with my guy here, Evan Ringler. Evan, the Mark Wahlberg 40-day challenge has started. If you had to give up something for 40 days, what would be the most difficult thing to do that's within reason?
The most difficult is tough. It might be something video game related potentially. I was coming at this from the perspective of what would I want to give up? What would make my life better? And that would be social media. I've already gotten most of the way there. The only one that I'm still on is Twitter, and that is not on my phone, only on the computer. And that has been a lot better. But I'm still on there too much, even if it's just 10 minutes a day is too much on that website.
Man, that's why you and I were destined to do a show together, because I deleted every app on my phone today except for text and email and Fast Draft.
Nice.
And that's just what I'm going to be doing. Now, it is very forgetting Sarah Marshall, where I am still just going to do everything on my laptop during normal business hours. But my screen time was like 10 hours a day. And 3 or 4 hours on Twitter to pay the bills, 2 hours on YouTube, an hour yesterday on Paycom. So I don't know what's going on with that. I don't know how I spent an hour with HR. Although I do find myself in trouble sometimes. So we're making progress. We're trying to better ourselves so that we can bring you guys the best content possible. Thank you for being with us today. All right, Evan, we are doing 10. We're doing ultimatum players. I love this. 10 players, 12 players, what have you, that we are not going to draft unless something relatively big changes between now and let's say September. Just for clarity's sake, we've got free agency, the draft, trades, injuries, an unspoken rule that you don't like to talk about. A lot of things could happen. So I will let you serve first here. Who's going to be your first player that you're not drafting unless they change their ways?
The first player I thought of for this was Ricky Pearsall. If the electric substation theories are substantiated, he'll be off my board in 2026.
Ricky Pearsall. Now, this is just the you think if there's one player in the league that's more susceptible to the EMF frequencies and the rulership of Gavin Newsom out of San Francisco, it's Ricky.
Yeah, for a variety of reasons. Of course, he is very injury prone himself. His quarterback is also very injury prone as well. And they just happen to be playing right next to the substation.
Yeah, the substation story, has it lost? Do you think it's lost steam since the Super Bowl, or do you think that it'll pick back up again the second one guy is out on IR?
I'm sure it'll be around for years. And neither the 49ers or the NFL will really say anything about it, if I had to guess. And in that world that I'm forecasting, we won't know if the substation is actually a factor or not.
Sure.
So I'll probably be drafting Ricky Pearsall and then be let down by him.
That could end up being an actually pretty devastating one. Let's take a look at his ADP here, which is Ricky Pearsall sitting at wide receiver 39 on Fast Draft in the Rabbit right now, which is open for anybody and all to come play. An ADP of 85th overall. So, I think that's pretty reflective of what's been going on with him and what's going on with his team. There's a lot of balls up in the air, injury, free agency, guys getting older, just all the normal jazz you pretty much have with San Francisco there. So just guys that are going around him that I'll just kind of ask you how you're feeling. You've got Ricky sitting there ahead of Kyle Monungai, Wan'Dale Robinson, Jacoby Myers. He's sitting behind Chuba Hubbard, Jackson Dart, Tony Pollard. Where do you see him compared to his peer group?
Honestly, I think Pearsall's a way better pick than all those guys. If he does just stay healthy for like 12 to 15 games in 2026, he's probably going to crush because he's been awesome, like on a per game, per route basis when he is healthy. And everything's kind of opening up for him this year with Purdy coming back healthy. And Kittle will maybe be out for the first couple months. We'll see how that goes.
Sure.
And then obviously, we can never expect Christian McCaffrey to stay healthy again. So everything seems to be pointing Pearsall's way in terms of an upside case. But of course, it's very fluky with the injuries.
Sure. Could not agree more. Jamie wants to know. Jamie, shout out. Good to have you per usual. Jamie wants to know, much like the people who wander the Vegas Strip, will there ever be a cheap $1 tournament for the broke asses on Fast Draft?
Even better, I think we're working on a free version for the broke
Ooh,
people out there. Yeah.
what kind of sick bastards does a free draft attract?
Yeah, the thing is about this, I don't know if Jamie will be able to play. It'll be a
Mm.
beginner only. We've done some
Yeah.
of those in the past.
Yeah.
So sorry, Jamie. You're just out of luck.
Yeah, I'm
Get your
sorry.
money up.
I'm sorry. Maybe if hit up that $50 deposit match at Chuck, and then I'll buy you a bunch of free drafts, Jamie, or a bunch of dollar drafts. I promise. Pete's in the house said, "Goodness, what a crew! We got to get Pete on one of these next shows and do a little Devil's threesome here. I think that would be some good energy. Good to have you guys today. Thanks for popping in. All right, my guy here. Do you have any more Ricky Pearsall notes before we move on to
let's move on.
pretty tough name? All right, I'm going with Justin Jefferson, the graphic guy today. ADP of wide receiver 7, 14th overall. So he's going early second on Fast Draft, maybe even late first if you're doing like a 12-man redraft league, which obviously it's early. He's going ahead of Drake London, Amari and Hampton. He's going behind Jeanty, Neighbors, Bowers. I might have that flipped, but here's what I have for him. What needs to change? A QB that can throw the ball, or Jordan Addison gets a reasonable suspension. Last year, he had 2 touchdowns despite 141 targets. I think that this is a team with a lot of pressure on it. They're 31st in cap space. They're $40 million in the hole right now, which is hilarious given like their roster. Their draft picks are 18th overall, 49th overall, 82nd overall. I forgot this team had a winning record last year. They actually had the lowest draft pick for any non-playoff team. So it's not even like they can do a whole lot here. It just seems like the most obvious fix, right? Let's get a passer in there that can consistently, deliver high value fantasy production for Justin Jefferson in his prime.
Yeah, but good luck finding one as well. The best options out there are Aaron Rodgers, which I don't see that happening.
Sure.
Geno Smith, potentially.
Sure.
Joe Flacco.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Jacoby Brissett, you'd have to trade for him. Mac Jones, you'd have to trade for him.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the best options out there. So I agree that that's definitely what they should do. But who knows if it'll actually work out that way. I think regardless, Justin Jefferson is more likely than not going to perform better next year than he did in 2025.
Sure.
He'll score more than 2 touchdowns. I can promise you that.
Yeah, that's got to be locked in.
Yeah. So is he a good pick at ADP? I don't really think so, but I don't know. If they do get Jacoby Brissett or Joe Flacco or somebody like that, then you could certainly talk yourself into Jefferson being more of like a first round kind of player.
Yeah, and that's where the ADP really is probably the biggest factor in all things today, because I'm going to make arguments for guys that you're going to be like, okay, well, why wouldn't you want him? But there's just these hinge points, and especially with him, like I would be interested to know how long the leash is going to be on JJ before, let's just say hypothetically, they bring in Geno on like a Daniel Jones type deal from last year where he's a very highly paid backup. How many games is JJ going to toil away with JJ? How long do I have to suffer that first round tag, that early second round tag in fantasy drafts before I start getting close to premium production? And that's not even guaranteed that he's going to end up getting it.
Yeah, I don't think Geno would be like the ideal one for me either. I like Geno as a Seahawks fan. I've had a lot of good memories with him, but I just don't. It's just we're on the decline for sure. I mean, last year was brutal. I would prefer. I guess the preferred option would be somebody like Jacoby Brissett or Joe Flacco or Jameis Winston or something like that. I don't know if that's actually going to happen though. We'll see.
Sure. I'm going to be the most annoying guy on Twitter if they bring in Jacoby Brissett. You're not going to see another guy. I'm going to be like the Tim Tebow speech. You will never see anybody shitpost as hard as I will shitpost for the rest of the offseason. We got more big time crew guys showing up. Pardusky's in the house and said, I would never join a fast draft that would have me as a member. I get that. Have some self-respect for yourself. Obviously, anybody who's showing up to this show has a tremendous amount of respect for who they are and what they have going on. So, Evan, we covered Justin Jefferson. Let's flip it back to you here. Who's going to be your next player?
My next player is Jaylen Waddle, who I've kind of been bouncing back and forth on through this offseason because the metrics last year were really good. But if they do end up bringing in Malik Willis, in addition to the Bobby Slowick and Kevin Patullo offense, that Waddle ceiling just gets a lot lower than it was a month ago.
Sure.
Because I just don't really trust those play callers, and Malik Willis. It'll probably be a very run heavy offense if I had to guess. And we haven't actually seen Malik Willis play more than like 2 good games in a row.
Yeah.
So there's a chance that Malik Willis is actually not good, which I know that's crazy to say right now, but the chance is very real.
I think that's like kind of the underlying. That's the thing that I don't see talked about a lot. He threw 35 passes last year. That's not a lot. And he did it in a Matt LaFleur system, who Matt LaFleur produced back-to-back MVPs for Rodgers when Rodgers was slumping. And then he's done great work with Jordan Love. So how do you separate, even I thought we saw glimpses of Sam Darnold in some of his other stops before, he put together this last season that he just had. He was even very good in Minnesota. So just to say that you can cut and paste Malik Willis's production somewhere else, I just think is crazy. And I'm glad you picked Waddle because he was one of my guys as well. So I can give some more. And he was actually the lowest guy on my list because his fast draft ADP is 70th overall, wide receiver 32. So he's taken a big hit for everything that's happened in Miami right now. He is behind Brian Thomas Jr., Kyle Pitts, and Ramondre Stevenson. He is ahead of legend of the show, Michael Wilson, Sam Laporta, and Scary Terry. And for this one in particular, like sometimes you just need a break. Like I'm sure there's arguments I'm going to make for guys all offseason that you're going to say that applies directly to Jaylen Waddle. But sometimes if you don't put on like a fantasy condom, you're going to end up with negative EV. And I do not want those results with a big season coming up for me.
What is a fantasy condom?
I have to protect myself from this dirtiness. I have to, even if it sounds like even 2 a.m. and Jaylen Waddle's in my queue, you just have to know to just put that big old bag of protection on and save yourself the hassle.
Sure.
For your next partner, not for me, but for my next partner. I've had things worse than that.
Fair enough. Yeah, that makes sense.
And it's tough too, because no Tyreek, probably no Waller. It's probably going to be the least amount of target competition that he'll have along to go with. I mean, their draft picks, they're 11th overall, 43rd, 75th, and 87th. They're negative $3 million in cap space, which is 21st, but their defense was ranked 24th last year. So they've got a lot of holes to address. I'd be very surprised if they invested in more high-end skill position talent.
Yeah, no, for sure. He's going to walk in as the one. I think he's a very good player as well. But I just don't think that the ceiling is quite going to be there as far as like being a top 12 receiver for us. I think that's pretty unlikely at this point. We'll see. It doesn't have to be Malik Willis. That's kind of what everybody's forecasting, but it doesn't necessarily have to go that way. We'll see, because Malik Willis doesn't really seem like a great fit to me with like Slowick and Patullo. That doesn't really make sense to me. So I'm not 100% convinced it's actually going to happen. And if they do go to more of a pocket passer, that would be more interesting.
Yeah, and I think the Mike. I'd love to see. Well, I'm interested to see, I should say, the Mike McDaniel impact on the offensive line, because it wasn't an incredibly talented unit, but it did play pretty well in the run game. And when you divorce that coach from the actual talent, and then you marry them with an offensive coordinator who is infamous for how poorly he works with offensive lines, there's a lot of negative indicators here for the Dolphins offense.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic point. McDaniel really did elevate that O-line play over the course of 2025 season. And we don't know if this coaching staff will be able to do the same thing. So I do have my concerns about Achane as well. It's hard to project any running back to have like a 20% target share in back-to-back seasons. Sure. He's more than likely going to fall back to like 15, 16%, which is still elite. Yeah. But it just takes a little off the top. Same for him, where the ceiling feels lower than it did a month ago.
Yeah. Let's use Geno Smith today as our avatar for a quarterback that we've seen operate a decent offense, even though it's not a sure thing. That could be a Kirk Cousins. That could be a Geno Smith. There's a handful of guys. It could be a Mac Jones. And obviously there's volatility there. How would you feel about a quarterback like that on this team?
That would be awesome. That would be sick. I mean, all these years with Tua, we get to move to that. That would be a big upgrade. Just kind of getting anybody that's competent in that room would be awesome.
You just lit up. We're gonna have to start pushing these narratives really early on this year and get some steam going, because it is Malik Willis or nobody for a lot of these accounts. a lot of big accounts that I respect and trust. It's like Malik Willis. No shade, but like, come on, I want a higher ceiling than some
I
of these.
still think, like, for content purposes, the best case scenario is just Tua for Kyler, straight up.
Ooh. Yeah, I think the Kyler hate, while hilarious and produces great content, his ability to operate an offense at a pretty decently high level has become a little underrated, I think.
I guess.
Not winning games, operate an
Right.
offense. Huge,
Sure.
big. Not that Jacoby Brissett he was the opposite, actually.
Yeah, you do have to like build the offense a certain way, but yeah,
Yeah.
I see what you mean.
Sure. All right. Let's move on to our other graphic go-getter today, Ashton Jeanty. So we're all over the map, from superstars to risers to fallers, everything. So ADP of RB8, 15th overall, which is funny. The 8th over, RB is just going to be crushing the early rounds this season, and rightfully so.
Mm-hmm.
So he's an early second round pick. He's going behind Omarion Hampton and the aforementioned Justin Jefferson, and he's going ahead of Malik Neighbors and Saquon Barkley. And for me, my what needs to change here is just a ridiculous upgrade to the offensive line. I thought about putting wide receiver talent in, but it just didn't feel like that was as seismic when you have a Brock Bowers there. So there's just a laundry list of rookie quarterbacks that have not had a running back come even close to that ADP just as recently. You look at Cam Ward, Tony Pollard, RB24, Caleb Williams, and these are rookie year seasons. Caleb Williams, DeAndre Swift, RB22, Drake May, Ramondre Stevenson, RB29, Bryce Young, Chuba Hubbard, RB34, and then CJ Stroud. Do you remember who CJ Stroud's lead running back was his rookie year?
Was it Dameon Pierce?
Close. It was. There was a timeshare. Devin Singletary was the majority rushing attempt leader there, and he finished as RB39, and those are points per game totals there. Just not very compelling. Now, there's obviously examples of teams, and that's why my big sticking point here is upgrade the offensive line, which they have a shit ton of draft picks. They have 10 picks, including the 36 overall, 67th, 102nd. They have 87 million in cap space, which is the second most. So this is a team that is equipped to actually change to satisfy the ultimatum that I'm giving them, but they're going to have to do it if I'm going to be taking Jeanty there.
Yeah, for sure. It's a very interesting ADP. I think you could see him going higher than that in the next few months if things break right, or he could be going around later than that if things don't go right.
Sure.
Yeah, it's an interesting free agency. There's some good O-line talent out there, actually. So if the Raiders can bring in some guys like that, that would certainly help a lot. Jeanty, we know that he's going to get the volume. He got the volume as a rookie. That's not a problem whatsoever. But the issue is just efficiency. And last year, he even scored 10 touchdowns as a rookie. That's a lot better than it felt like, that's for sure. So I'm not so worried about that. It's more so just, can the offense become more efficient? And I think Mendoza is definitely a positive in that regard, and the coaching changes are a positive in that regard. But we can't expect it to just leapfrog them from 32 up to 20 immediately. They might need to have another pretty poor season before that.
Yeah, and that, his floor potentially, when you look at the guys he's going around, you get excited when you see Jonathan Taylor, Omarion Hampton, and then do you get excited when you see Barkley? I don't really feel it, even though I do feel like the offense is trending the right way.
I take Saquon over him pretty easily, man.
Yeah, I don't get excited when I see Chase Brown, but I do like the ceiling there. It's just kind of like you're going to have to make some tough decisions in that second round this year, as opposed to last year. It felt pretty like a slam dunk.
Yeah, talking through this has definitely made me realize that Jeanty feels half a round too high in this ADP.
Yeah, absolutely. You start shoveling him down to like Derrick Henry, Bucky Irving, Breece Hall. Maybe it's like, okay, clearly. And even then you could make some cases. But yeah, the top end talent this year is really strong for guys that are still relatively in their prime, if not below it.
Yep, absolutely. So that brings me to my next guy, which I think we've talked about him a couple times this offseason, but it's RJ Harvey. He's a guy that I've already stated that I'm fading him going into the next year. But if they do bring in more competition, which I expect that they will, it depends on the level of that competition. Is it a guy like Javonte, Etienne, Dowdle, or Kenneth Walker. This is a good running back free agent class.
Yeah.
If they bring in one of those guys, he's going from a fade to a mega fade for me. So we'll see what kind of level they bring in. It might be somebody like that, or they go more for like a Dobbins, Algier, more of like just a committee guy. And I don't know. I'm fading RJ Harvey regardless. It's just a matter of how much I'm fading him.
Gosh, I can't think of anything funnier than Tyler Algier to the Broncos. That is just like the quintessential offseason, everybody collectively groaning at the same time. A lot of tweets typed out and then deleted, or posted and then edited. Just a firestorm of shit coming this way. That would be a lot of fun. RJ Harvey is 49th overall right now. He's going as RB 22. He's going ahead of Rome Odunze, Carnell Tate, and Jaden Daniels. He's going behind Colston Loveland, Cam Scattaboo, and DeAndre Swift. How do you feel about him in his peer group there?
That is just a horrible pick. One of the worst picks on the board you can make. I mean, goodness gracious. He should be going in like the 70s or 80s. I mean, the only reason that he was good as a rookie was because he had an outlier touchdown rate over 6%, and that's not going to happen again. I don't think he's a very good runner at all. And I don't think that the Broncos see him that way either. They were just kind of running him out there because they had to. They didn't have anybody else. So I think he's going to be relegated to a satellite back this year, a satellite back with upside, I might add. But he's going 20 to 30 picks too early on fast draft right now.
This is a team that's in a tricky spot. Not a bad spot, I would say, but they are cap space wise. They're 22nd. They have 26 million in cap space. Their big free agents are John Franklin Myers, Alex Singleton, and I mean, depending on how you feel about him, J.K. Dobbins, with how well he played last year, tough injury, of course, but he could be considered a potential guy to go after. No one terribly important up for extensions. Ben Powers, Marvin Mims, if they want to get funky. So, I mean, they could throw their weight around if they really do feel like another steady if they don't want to be rolling out McLaughlin and Bidet in the playoffs again. I could certainly see this being a team that shakes it up. And that is just kind of how the Sean Payton experience goes.
Yeah, they're going to invest at the running back position. And I think it's going to be significant, but it might be like RJ Harvey. Now you're just like a 20% snap kind of player. There's potential of that here. If they sign somebody like ETN or Javonte, that is just more trustworthy on the ground.
So what would you have to see to draft RJ Harvey where he's going?
Well, his ADP would have to fall a lot. That's for sure.
Gotcha. Yeah. All right. You guys know what to do. You heard it right there. Let's just take a month off from RJ Harvey. Let's plummet it a little bit. And maybe we can recoup some value. All right. We are going to take a quick break, and we come back. We've got a boatload of fun and terrible players to talk about right here on Risers and Fallers.
Rookie draft season is now, and you know that because on Fast Draft, we have the Origins Tournament. That's right, the first, way too early, all-rookie tournament is live. There's a $10,000 prize pool. Start practicing for your rookie drafts and leverage your knowledge of rookies by winning cash. And given that it's close to 50% full, if not already well beyond 50% full, a lot of those drafts included players that actually did not come out. So every draft that happens from here until this thing fills, you're getting positive EV. So go to fastdraft.app, get the app, and sign up with your host promo code for a $50 deposit match, or use code FAST. Fast Draft is the next hot fantasy game, so get out there and start drafting faster.
The fast drafts are absolutely cruising. Been having a lot of fun with there, putting my peers in their place, reminding everybody that I am not just a shit poster. I am a tax-paying draft machismo. Now, let's get to my next pick here, and it's a combo pick. So this is a special. This is a daily double for us right here, and that is the gruesome twosome of Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall. Now, I think that, if I'm not mistaken, you and I shared similar sentiments on this offense when we did our exit interview series on the AFC East. Garrett Wilson's ADP right now is mid-third. He's 31st overall, wide receiver 16. And Breece Hall, he's RB 15, 29th overall, also going in that third round. These guys are kind of going behind your Josh Allen, Nico Collins, Bucky Irving types, and they're going ahead of your Tetera McMillans, your Josh Jacobs, your Rashee Rices. I hate to be like cliche, but I really just wrote QB that can throw the ball. I like the offensive hire of Frank Reich for Breece Hall. I don't love it for Garrett Wilson. I like what the offensive line is trending towards, but I just think this is a team that I want to be a year later on than a year early with either one of these guys, especially just what we've seen from this organization over the last 2-3 years.
Yeah, I had both these guys on like my long list before I whittled it down today. And I ended up taking them off because at the end of the day, the Jets are the Jets. And expecting them to be more than the Jets is just being foolish.
So they don't even get an ultimatum. They're like, I know you can't get your shit together, and we're kicking the tires on this thing.
Yes, but I am conflicted because I have mentioned on the Mind of Mansion program that I am overall somewhat bullish on the Jets as far as like 2027 and beyond.
Yeah.
Because they have some offensive line pieces that are young and good, and they have Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall. Not locked up long term, but he is probably going to be there this year.
Yeah.
So I'm Jets curious, but at the end of the day, I'm denying myself.
Jets curious. Yeah. This is one where you just need like your I guess it's usually girls that give guys ultimatums, right? I don't know if there's any guys that have ever given a girl an ultimatum that I'm aware of, unless she's like OnlyFans whore or something. But we're just like the friend group all comes together and they're like they take your phone, they block the number, they say don't answer, don't pick up, you have rules that you must abide. The Jets have 11 draft picks, which is a lot. They have the second overall in one QB draft. They have the 16th, 33rd, 44th. So wow, 4 picks in the top 45s nights, and 103rd to kind of tap it off there. They have $78 million in cap space, which is the 4th best. Jermaine Johnson is their only big extension candidate. And then Quincy Williams and Tony Adams are really their only big notable free agents. So this is another team that really, it's an unfortunate year to be in this position. Normally this is a team that you could say is in the best position to overhaul their win-loss total rapidly, but it seems more like a foundation building year where hopefully they just get as much talent as they can and go forward. The big thing coming out of this year will be the term Jets curious. I think we'll be using that a lot between now and September. And the lovely Mrs. Foxworth is here to back us up with that, who just also crushed the graphic today. So shout out one of the goats.
Yep, as she always does. She is the best.
She is.
Yeah, I think this also brings me back to your fantasy condom take. I think this is actually kind of the best way to use that condom is to prevent the Jets from getting into your bloodstream.
The fantasy condom is it's a multi-pack. It's not just, obviously condoms can be single serve, but they come with 12? I say that because I haven't bought a pair in like 10 years. So let's see here. The Garrett Wilson stuff is pretty on the nose. I don't think we have to rehash that. We both believe he's an awesome talent. He just needs a good quarterback. The Breece Hall stuff's interesting because here's the Third Reich's coaching ranks here. And this is going back to the Eagles and the Colts. And this is rush attempts per game. 6th, 5th, 17th, 5th, 10th, 5th, and then 19th in 2022. But Jonathan Taylor missed 7 games that year. So, I mean, they're probably going to pound the rock.
Yeah. It's definitely good for Breece Hall from like a volume perspective. Although I don't know, man. I'm just the overall offense. Obviously, you have to be really concerned.
Yeah.
It's interesting how last year we were in this exact same situation where Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson were going in the mid-3rd round, and now we're right back to the same exact spot.
You're right. Legitimately, nothing has changed. It'd be so funny if they roll it just Justin Fields week run. Let's just pretend like nothing happened. It's a really interesting range. And we talked about it a few minutes ago, but I mean, Jeremiah Love, Bucky Irving, Breece Hall, and then Josh Jacobs, Kyron Williams, and Travis Etienne. I mean, it's kind of like young bloods versus old heads. I mean, it's just a lot of different.
Those guys have a lot of uncertainty as well.
Yeah. Tough looks. All right. That was my double duo there. Who do you got next?
I'm going with Brian Thomas Jr. And this is one that's based on training camp reports.
Sure.
I want to hear some positive training camp reports out of Jacksonville. Otherwise, I am I'm going to be very concerned because this seems like just the perfect situation for a bunch of fluff pieces this offseason in June, July, August about how Brian Thomas Jr. has gotten over his demons and he's ready to crush it in year 3 and get back to his rookie year self. If those fluff pieces don't exist, I will be very concerned because it just seems like such a layup for those beat writers.
You know, what's funny is like we really have gotten into the media and especially the beat writers not being afraid to be like, this guy sucks. Like it is not looking good down here in Jacksonville. And Florida is really more like that than other teams too, between like Miami, Tampa. And I don't know if it's like the proximity to Disney or if it's the no state income tax or just the relative like craziness that persists down there. But man, the beat reporters down there are holding it down when it comes to like, I don't know about all this. That's a really funny insight there. So the Jaguars, they are 25th in cap space. They're 9 million under, obviously famous right now for Travis Hunter being theoretically moved to full-time cornerback and part-time wide receiver. Great trade for Jacoby Myers last year. Parker Washington came on strong. And as far as what they're able to do, I mean, this is an interesting one because it's not even really like free agent or draft or anything. It's just more like linear player progression that you want to see that we didn't see last year.
Yeah, for sure. There's no doubt that Jacoby Myers and Parker Washington are going to be a significant part of this offense. It's just about whether Brian Thomas Jr. is going to be just a part of this offense or if they're going to build the offense around him. Sure. There is a chance that he can return to his rookie year self and just absolutely crush because this offense is clearly ascending and he is the most talented player on said offense. So I'm very curious about what this offseason looks like for the Jags. There is a chance that Brian Thomas could completely blow up this season and people won't expect it. And that could be positive or negative blow up.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's at that part of the draft where it's kind of like you got a big decision to make. He is going ahead of Kyle Pitts, Ramondre Stevenson, Jaylen Waddle, Michael Wilson. He's going behind Caleb Williams, Harold Fannin, Tyler Warren, and Alec Pierce. So that's the point in the draft, really, where you're like, am I getting in on this late run of quarterbacks and tight ends, or do I want – he's probably going to be most people's second flex, maybe their first flex, depending on their league. So he's in a nice spot where you probably won't feel it if he busts, but you're probably going to be missing out on some other pretty good values if he does.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. The range of outcomes with him is wider than almost any other receiver I can think of this year.
Yeah, no, it goes a lot of ways. And this is a super talented guy. I mean, this is a guy that I'm seeing in mock trades for like straight up for AJ Brown. And I'm like, damn, like when you think about like what he could be and where he is in age versus where some other guys are, he has about as many webs as one player could weave for a guy going into his third year. I mean, it's just absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
Do you like him over Jaylen Waddle?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I think I would go with Brian Thomas Jr. I see more ceiling there. At the end of the day, all Brian Thomas Jr. has to do is catch the football. Last year, if he just caught the football, he would have been like a top 12 receiver in fantasy. Like over 16 expected points per game last year. And he was horrible. But they kept going to him because he's so talented. So I just catch the ball, please.
Please. And the second year really is where you see blow-ups in really good offensive minds, play callers. Second year in Shanahan systems, second year in LaFleur systems. That could be the case for Liam Cohen if he continues his trend. The guys get there. This was an excellent offense last year, second half of the season. So, do they have another gear to go? We'll see.
Yep.
All right. Now we have we have a player that could be talked about like that this year, and that's going to be Emeka Egbuka, ADP. Wide receiver 21, 49th overall. So he's going at that 4 or 5 turn. He's sitting behind guys like Colston Loveland, Scadaboo Swift, some of the guys we just mentioned. He's going ahead of RJ Harvey, Carnell Tate, Jaden Daniels. And mine's really simple. I'm drafting Emeka Egbuka if Mike Evans signs elsewhere. I think Baker played hurt a lot last year. I think the offensive line struggled with consistency due to injuries and guys rotating positions. And I think the play caller, Josh Grizzard, struggled to adapt once he started having some adversity. Zach Robinson comes in, offers what I think is a higher floor, but it really depends on if Evans come back. I still think he's playing at a level high enough to take targets away from the other guys. The team's going to force it to him. He means too much to the organization. Just a pretty cut and dry one for Mecca Egbuka.
I love this one. This is awesome. Yeah, it seems more likely than not now that Mike Evans will sign elsewhere, which is definitely huge for Egbuka's target share. Hopefully they can use him in a better role this year as opposed to using him in like a downfield role that didn't make a ton of sense to me last year.
Yeah.
I just didn't really understand it. I do like the Zach Robinson hire quite a bit. And Baker can't play any worse than he did last year. He was
correct.
After week 6, he was just beyond horrible. We still haven't heard what exactly his injuries were, but it seemed like he was super banged up and went from playing like an MVP candidate to playing like Shedeur Sanders, basically. It was really rough. He's not going to do that again. It's going to be at least a little bit better than that, and potentially a whole lot better than that. There's a ton of upside here, and the floor is pretty good as well, in my opinion.
Like Pro Bowl quarterback Shedeur Sanders is what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Is that what I just heard? Yeah. There was a game, I can't remember who it was against. Might have been the Patriots, something like that, to where Baker Mayfield came out for like a drive from a shoulder injury and Teddy Bridgewater came in. And the reason I'll never forget that is because on Red Zone, you know how they said they're not going to play ads, and then they show they don't play an ad, but they show you like just a picture on the side of an ad.
Yeah.
Well, Teddy Bridgewater is in the game, and then it's an ad. Actually, it might have been the Lions. I can't remember. And then there's an ad of the Teddy Bridgewater Progressive commercial. So he was on the screen twice, doing nothing. He was doing as much in the Progressive commercial as he was on the field for the Buccaneers. But yeah, I mean, you're right. Couldn't play any worse. It's an interesting team because if you take Egbuka or if you take Evans off of it, who plays traditional X when you've got Egbuka, Godwin, McMillan, and Tez Johnson probably, because they have 7 draft picks this year. The only compelling ones are 14 overall, 46 overall, 77 overall. So you don't expect much change from the offense. I think the offense could be top 7, 8 with just what they have now if everybody plays healthy. 14 million in cap space, which is not a ton. No one important to resign either. I mean, Jamel Dean, Logan Hall, Kate Otten, Levante David, Hassan Reddick, guys just didn't make a big impact last year. So I think this is a team that with better coaching and health could just do better from a win-loss perspective, and then therefore a fantasy perspective for Egbuka.
Yeah, and your point on the X receiver I think is very interesting because, they pretty much just have like 4 good slot players. I do think that Egbuka and Godwin are probably good enough to where you could like kind of split time at X and they would be pretty good there as long as you were creative with moving them around and not just like lining them up on the outside running go routes. You definitely have to be more creative about it. I do generally trust Zach Robinson, but I don't know. They probably will bring in some type of X player in more of like a sacrificial X kind of role.
God, Matt Collins on this team Matt Collins in Florida that might be it. That might be what it takes to break America. All right, let's see here. So that was mine. Who you got next for us?
I have Michael Wilson.
Ooh, finally, we can have some animosity amongst each other. It's getting too chummy in here.
Yeah, so this quarterback situation could go in any direction.
Yeah.
They do still have Kyler and Brissett on the roster, but they're probably going to bring in at least one more quarterback as well to compete. And there's, with Michael Wilson, his 2025 stats give me a whiff of 2024 Jerry Jeudy because none of the metrics are really all that great. He just ran a lot of routes and played with Jacoby Brissett like Jerry Jeudy played with Jameis Winston. So it's very similar to me in that way. And when Marvin Harrison Jr. and Michael Wilson were both healthy, the production wasn't close. It was Marvin Harrison Jr. outproducing Michael Wilson by like 20 to 40% on a per game basis. So overall, I think that the Michael Wilson's team has gotten a little out of control. I do like him. And when I watch him play, I think he's very good. But I would still have Marvin Harrison Jr. as the one in that offense pretty clearly because that's all we've seen to this point when both of them have been healthy.
Yeah, that's where I think the fantasy community is doing a good job of suppressing his ADP. He's going as wide receiver 33 right now, 70th overall. I mean, he's in that Jaylen Waddle range. And
where's Marv going?
Marv is going ahead. Did I see him going ahead or below? Let's see here. No, he's going behind. He's going 10 spots behind at wide receiver 38, so 81st overall. So there's a lot of people that are still feeling burned by that high selection of Marv last year, and then are probably riding the wave of Michael Wilson going 70th overall. Do you think that this Cardinals quarterback situation is more optimistic than what we thought the Browns quarterback situation was going to be last year?
Definitely. Yeah. 100%.
Because you're right. The Jerry Jeudy of it all is like the perfect microcosm for understanding the situation versus understanding like the future and what future production, what the likelihood of future production. Yeah.
And, they still have Jacoby Brissett in the room, and he's the guy that elevated this offense to great fantasy heights. We'll see, though, because it's a completely different staff. I do like the LaFleur hire, although Nathaniel Hackett at OC, not my favorite. So that is something to think about.
I would assume Jets' seriousness of it all, man.
Yeah, exactly. I would assume that they bring in another quarterback that's maybe in more of like an Anthony Richardson kind of project kind of vibe for them to compete with Jacoby Brissett. And I would think that Brissett starts maybe half the games for the Cardinals this year, which would probably be great for all the passing game weapons in this offense. Sure. Although I will say that one of the reasons they threw so much last year, like historic rates of throwing the ball, was just because they didn't have any running backs at all.
Yeah.
They all got hurt. So I think we should expect the passing numbers to be a lot lower for the Cardinals this year. And people are discounting the Marvin Harrison Jr. part of it, who has throughout his career just been better than Michael Wilson. And I've been the low man on Marv every year. Both years I've had 0 Marvin Harrison Jr. shares, maybe a little bit in best ball here and there, but not much. And now I think I'm actually going to be in on Marv this year.
This is the time. This is what you got to do. You got to wait till it's way down low and then time your attack, because this is a team that where are they here? They're looking pretty good free agency wise. They have the 12th most cap space, 34 million, and they can free that up with, there's bubble cuts they could make. James Conner, Dalvin Thompson, Sean Murphy Bunting, and then obviously whatever they end up doing with Kyler could free up a ton. No crazy notable free agents either. I mean, Calais Campbell, Jalen Thompson. So, what they end up investing could be fun. I do love them bringing in a young upside quarterback, but not necessarily like the future, like just a risk, take a risk and have some fun with it. The defense was 28th last year. So unless they bring in an offensive coach, maybe it's 30th this year. Who knows? That would be awesome for fantasy. And maybe all these guys can eat. But I think the thesis of what you're getting at is like part of the building blocks of fantasy is understanding like the circumstances that went into a player being successful. And then are those circumstances replicable for the next year? And it's almost always no, unfortunately, with guys like this. And it's not an indictment on the player himself as much as it is like how quickly the tides shift in fantasy football.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great way to put it. Even if they did get Jacoby Brissett as like their full season starter in 2026, it would most likely not look anything close to what it did this year. Yeah. I mean, we've seen enough Jacoby Brissett that, he's sucked. He was really bad for the Patriots a couple of years ago. Yeah. He wasn't great for the Browns either. We shouldn't expect these fantasy scams to continue, although there is a little bit of upside of some fantasy scamming this year.
I mean, like Ryan Fitzpatrick, for all of his everybody remembers like the high flying act, but he was inconsistent in that manner. Like, every team he went to didn't all of a sudden become a top 10 passing offense. There were some horrible passing offenses that he captained. And then sometimes, it clicked right. Maybe he's on that trend, and, that can happen on the same team, like you just mentioned. All right, let's see here. We got just a few more here. This is a tricky one for me because I think this is probably, along with Garrett Wilson, the biggest, like how talented I believe this player is does not even come close to how I view him as a fantasy asset. And that's going to be Rome Odunze, ADP of wide receiver 23, 50th overall. So he's going in the mid 5th. He's behind some of the guys we've mentioned today, like Egbuka and Carnell Tate. He's ahead of, surprisingly for me, Devontae Adams, Luther Burden, and the rookies, Lemon and Tyson. And for me, this is as simple as DJ Moore being traded, which unfortunately is probably the most unlikely of any of the ultimatums we're going to talk about today. $28 million cap hit, 35 in dead cap. He is the highest cap hit of any Bear on the team. 29 years old. His production's dropping off. This is just a really hard one to see happen when you look at the finances.
Yeah, I'm pulling up the finances right now. I had this one on my long list as well. Just because this is it's just such an important thing that needs to happen is DJ Moore needs to get off the roster.
Yes. Yeah. No,
and not just for Odunze, but for Burden as well.
Sure.
It would just help both of them so much.
Because they don't even have a lot that they can do otherwise. I mean, they're 27th in cap space. They're 10 million under the cap. Their draft picks are not terribly valuable if they wanted to package him as some kind of, sometimes they throw in picks to, have a team take on this contract. So, if they wanted to trade him to Tennessee, for example, who I believe has the most cap space, maybe get DJ Moore a weapon to develop him. I don't know.
That makes a lot of sense. That does.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? We just nailed it right there. Let's get that going. They have the 25th overall pick, the 57th, and the 89th. Caleb Williams, just from his rookie deal, has the third highest cap hit on this team, which I just think is really funny because they just have a lot of young talent that either hasn't been extended or needs to be extended. So there is a smart GM could make some moves here with this team, but the Rome Odunze of it all really is that I just think that there needs to be one less cook in the kitchen. I don't think he has the big playability that like Burden, Loveland, or Moore all show when the play breaks down, and Caleb breaks the play down like 25% of the time pretty much. So if we're going to get him to like a traditional Demaryius Thomas type role, which I more than think he's capable of performing, I just think that it's either going to need to be, or two things need to happen. They need to get rid of DJ Moore, and they need to throw the ball like 20% more per game. And I think both of those in the next 2 years are definitely going to happen. But for this year in particular at that ADP, that's what I would need to see right now.
Yeah, I really like Rome Odunze just from like a talent perspective and from a metrics perspective. Last year, he was also quite good. As far as like his share of the offense was quite large. 14th among receivers in air yard share, 18th in target share. For a second-year player, that's quite good. 17th in first read target share. And actually wide receiver 13 in expected fantasy points per game. Now, you didn't actually feel that in your lineup, especially in the second half of the season. It was pretty brutal. A lot of that was the 6 drops that he had. But overall, I am quite bullish on Rome Odunze as a talent. And I think it's going to work out. It's just a matter of when. I think he can be like the actual go-to X on this team, better than Burden, better than Loveland as the number one guy. But you're right. They definitely need to get off of DJ Moore. I think we did solve it where we just trade him to Tennessee. They eat the money for 1 year, and then they cut him and save a bunch of money. So it's just a 1 year commitment, and maybe the Bears even have to give up a pick. I don't know how that works exactly, but
that would be
do whatever you have to do.
That would be absolutely rocking. I mean, they had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They had 7 players with over 48 targets last year. That just cannot happen again. When you're investing fantasy capital in these guys that are going, and I mean, granted, you're not getting a lot of other high target earners in that range, but I mean, if you're looking at like how do you view, like when I see Davante Adams on here, basically neck and neck with him. Granted, Davante's age is what it is, but he's looked like a top 10 receiver again last year. It's hard for me to even imagine I could consider Rome Odunze over him, knowing what we know at this moment.
Yeah, I think you're right on that. Davante Adams is one of those situations where he had an outlier touchdown rate last year, but I think he's just going to do it again. He's Davante Adams, and he's that good. He scored 14 touchdowns last year, and he's probably just going to score 14 touchdowns next year because that's exactly his role in the offense is just win in the red zone on the line of scrimmage and then just go catch it over whoever's guarding you. And Matthew Stafford's going to throw it in the perfect spot. So book it for next year. Davante Adams is actually going to score more touchdowns.
That'd be about the best thing I can imagine is that like, because there's nobody more annoying than touchdown regression people. And I don't mean like, I don't mean people who, I know, but but you know what I mean? Like people, like there's people who believe in flat earth and then there's flat earthers.
Sure.
And we got to do our best to keep those people pegged down. Let's move on. Let's do 2 more here and I'll let you go. And then I'll top it off with one that I know is going to make you smile.
All right. My last one, I promise that I wrote this down before I opened Twitter today. It is, okay, here's what I wrote in my notes. I wrote Rashee Rice - prison. And this was before I opened Twitter today. And there was a giant lawsuit where, God, he did some really horrible stuff. It seems like. But yeah, so I don't even know if we should really talk about that anymore. He's probably going to get a big old suspension or potentially just face prison time or potentially be released by the Chiefs. The news today was just really rough. And it was just kind of crazy that I actually predicted it like 30 minutes beforehand.
You could just feel it, and you can with some of these guys. Sometimes it's just in the cards. So basically, your ultimatum here would need to be, this is bullshit, which it's probably not. But in the off chance that a lot of it is embellished, that's what you would need to see.
Yeah, maybe we should move on to the next guy.
Yeah, let's move on because it's gonna make you feel pretty good. My last guy today is gonna be DK Metcalf.
Oh, I had this one written down.
Yes, this is becoming one of the more talked about players on this show for almost always the same exact reason, which is pretty funny. ADP of wide receiver 29. He is going in the early 6th round, 62nd overall. He is behind Javonte Williams, Christian Watson, and Jalen Hurts. And he's ahead of Caleb Williams, Harold Fant, and Tyler Warren. So that range we talked about earlier where people are kind of maybe done building their big anchors and they want to get into some more high upside, high variance plays. This is one where it's just like QB that can throw the ball well. So not just QB that can throw the ball, QB that can throw the ball well. Only QBs on the roster right now are Will Howard and Mason Rudolph. This is a guy that we've talked about ad nauseum for being inconsistent, and that's with multiple Hall of Fame quarterbacks at the helm. The only positive I could say for this is that Mike McCarthy, what did I just do, like a Boston? Mike McCarthy is not here to run the ball. Here's his passing attempts over the last 7 years: 3rd, 8th, 19th, and that was a year in which Dak Prescott missed 6 games. 6th, 2nd, and 3rd. You tell me.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you're right. For in some ways, they are bringing in Aaron Rodgers.
Very polite of you.
So it's going to be Aaron Rodgers, right?
It looks like it.
Yeah, it does. It does certainly seem like that. So we should probably just expect DK to be basically the same as he was last year. Yeah, they might throw the ball a little bit more, but they're probably going to be less efficient doing it because I actually thought that Arthur Smith I think he's a good offensive coordinator. I know that's a very hot take, but I think he's good. And the Arthur Smith offense is a lot better than the Aaron Rodgers offense in terms of efficiency at this point in his career. It's interesting that DK Metcalf did finish as wide receiver 19 in points per game last year, but the year before he actually scored more points per game and was wide receiver 30. So it's just a case of the wide receiver 2 position really sucking this year.
Yes.
So I think he'll be in that same range where he's scoring somewhere between 11 and 14 points per game as the ceiling. And more than likely he'll just be a replaceable guy in our lineups. But I guess there is a tiny bit of upside if they bring in somebody that's not Aaron Rodgers.
That's really that range of guys where I'm like, okay, do I want the volatility that DK brings, or do I want Jalen Hurts, or do I want Harold Fant Jr.? Like, I really try to weigh what he can do in my lineup especially from a best ball standpoint versus what I think I can get from those guys at a value perspective. And, that's even looking at it right now. So I don't know what this team can do. I don't know where they could go. They have the most draft picks of any team we're going to talk about today, 12. They have 21st overall, 53rd, 75th, 85th, 99th, 44 million in cap space, which is a lot. This isn't a Kyler Murray team, is it?
You know what? That's kind of interesting. I think they should do that.
Dude, Kyler Murray and DK Metcalf. I cannot. I want to see a picture of them next to each other. That's the dream scenario right now. I might get on. What's the best AI generator for something like this? I usually use Grok, but I guess I could use ChatGPT and just get that going.
You would use Grok.
Well, I was just trying to bait. I was trying to bait
Reich
our.
nickname.
I was trying to bait our lovely Brittany to see if she was still in the comments here to get back. I knew something would get her going there. That's why I stalled so long to drag that out. Brittany, let's get working on a DK to on a Kyler to DK situation. I think that could end up doing numbers.
I mean, it can't be worse than Rodgers, or at least less useless. You know, or more useless, I guess. DK Metcalf and Rodgers they don't fit together either.
Yeah.
DK is
Correct.
not exactly like the trustworthy route runner. With a good head on his shoulders that Rodgers has loved in the past. He is kind of the complete opposite of that. He's very erratic and not a great contested catch guy. He's actually quite poor at that. And Rodgers loves throwing those contested balls, those back shoulder throws. That's just not DK's game at all. So yeah, I don't really see any ceiling with Rodgers to DK this year.
No, I mean, there was, shout out film watchers put up several highlights of, Aaron Rodgers had multiple guys open and he was throwing back shoulder fades to like a covered Calvin Austin or a covered Adam Thielen. I'm just like, man, that is.
I remember one game in particular. It was like first and goal and they needed a touchdown. And it was just fade to Calvin Austin, fade to Calvin Austin, fade to Adam Thielen. And then, I don't know, just took a sack or something. It was just horrible. The Aaron Rodgers offense at this point is completely unwatchable, in my opinion. I hate it. Maybe that's a hot take. I don't know. But I would rather see anybody else, really. Yeah,
you really got to blame Jeopardy for this one, because had they given him the full-time job, none of us would be subjected to this bullshit.
Absolutely.
Let's run through the alternatives here. So Slashy wants some Will Howard. Brittany's backing him up. How would you feel about Will Howard coming in to quarterback this team? They would do well for one of my dynasty teams.
Fuck it. Why not? I would rather see that than Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. I think I might be with you on that one. Jamie said someone offered me Metcalf for ETN in Dynasty. How do you feel about that one?
That's a really weird trade, just because we don't know exactly what ETN is going to be next year. Like, it's just so up in the air.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess I prefer ETN just because there's definitely more ceiling there, significantly more ceiling. But Metcalf does have more of a floor of value. So I understand why it's a tough one there.
I think I'm taking ETN there, but I agree with the not a slam dunk for sure, considering, what we don't know what's going to end up happening. Pardusky said, I got offered DK for Matthew Golden. Tough to gauge this early, but DK hate is getting us a little loose. Those reports you wanted to see about Brian Thomas Jr., you're starting to see about Matthew Golden already. Does that do anything for you?
Not really, just because I didn't really like him as a prospect.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. At this point, I would probably just take DK and see it as kind of just a reroll of Matthew Golden.
Yeah.
This is an opportunity to get out. I get it that Dobbs is leaving, so maybe that opens up some snaps for Golden.
Yeah,
but he just wasn't even that great when he was on the field either. So overall, I'm out on Golden for now.
Yeah, and I also think there's kind of like a name brandness to players like Metcalf, to where like even if they're not performing up to what you would consider a quality piece of your lineup, you could maybe convince other people, past performance, future indicators, athletic scores, things like that he could. Yeah. There's still time.
DK is going to be worth something next year. You can't say the same about Golden. There's a chance he's worth nothing.
Great way to end the show. I love that. That's a professional point by a professional analyst. I love every second of that. All right. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us today. Evan, why don't you shout out where they can find you and what you got going on?
You can find me on Twitter at Evan Ringler FF. Besides that, all my work is at PlayerProfiler.com and on this network. And besides that, just go play on Fast Draft. Right now, we got the Origins Way Too Early tournament live right now. It's essentially a plus EV best ball tournament. As long as you don't draft Dante Moore, Justice Haynes, or John Mateer, then you're guaranteed to profit, basically, because so many people have drafted those guys that are staying in college. So go draft in the Origins and make money, and then go draft in the Rabbit as well, which is our 15-round full best ball contest.
How many other platforms are guaranteeing people profit? I don't even think you're allowed to do that in 40 states. We're doing it right here today on Risers and Fallers. And I want to say to Satoshi here, Jeremiah Love is all over the Player Profiler channel and all over the website. So all you have to do is go over to there and you will find as much, if not more information, all the information you could ever want. I am Chuck Bass as always, guys. I appreciate it. We will see you next week